Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 20th of May 2021 and it's a very significant time in my timeline. In the previous video I made, I talked about how we'd seen a nuclear power station go bang, just as well, not so much a nuclear power station but certainly a nuclear facility. And the reason it had gone bang, we're not really too sure, and there's a lot of different stories about this facility that's gone bang, but some of it is about pump failure, even though it was a centrifuge. And exactly what went wrong, there's a lot of different ideas and theories out there. We can see it as a bit of a precursor to everything that's all the tensions now that exist in the Middle East, because of this belief that potentially Israel has got involved in this sabotage attack. But I made a video before and I said that this flyby is coming in and it's affecting us, and we've charted all the different aspects of these objects coming through. And before I take you to the model again, I just want to show you this shot that was just posted yesterday by Mr. MBB333. Check the way it's tracking to the right as it's moving down. This is not a comet. Just going to do it again and just track. See, observe, it's moving down, but in my opinion, that is moving as much to the right as it is down. It's not an asteroid, it's not a comet. What I'm of a mind is it's this shot that I posted back in 15th of March 2021, although the shot itself was an RE55 shot. I'll have to actually peer at the screen, excuse me. Yeah, it was around about February the 25th this year. Now I'm of a mind that was the same object. Let me just give some proportion to that. Let's go back to the. So that shot there was also posted by Mr. MBB333 mid-November, around about November the 16th. So we saw the pair coming in. And I'm of a mind that this is the one to the left here. You can see where it's coming in there. You've got these two, you've got three ultimately coming in together here, ultimately. But these two, Charon, what I'm calling Kerberos, when the Earth goes round the Sun, one complete rotation 12 times, that these pair, they travel together. We've had so many shots of them traveling together, it's quite odd, but they will do 11 cycles around whatever they orbit in the time we do 12. And this one up here, Hydra, this will go around 13 times when we go around 12. It's a very, very odd thing, and that will become a little bit clearer here, but as we go through. But you can imagine this was, as these two are coming up, this is this one here. Now what's happening is we've got this one coming. I've got the timings of these running slightly wrong, but you have to understand this whole model was built this aspect of the model was built to run from 2004 to 2000 and to now, to up to August, early August this year. And you can imagine that this object here was, it is it where is, I've lost it now, is literally this object here going ahead of us now and going out. So this is the first one going out. This is the first one going out. So then we've got to think, well, let's just, that was another shot of them also, do you remember and then this shot as well? I think I'm just trying to remember who posted that. Was it also Area 55? I'm so sorry. Normally I keep all the shots. Hopefully it will become clear. I know Brandon Corey Nagley posted that in late November, and that's the one we're going to meet in there. You can see over here. Hydra is going to cross in early somewhere in I'm imagining most likely early August, but it could be later in August. But this is the big player. But not to say this one's, even though technically it's kind of doing, like I say, it does a complete rotation slightly faster, but it's orbiting closer to its orbiting center rather than the other two, which are moving further away. So even though they're going, like 11 cycles around to our 12, to that point where we sync up again, their circumference is bigger. And this furthest one, the one that we're just experiencing now, the one that Mr. MBB 333 posted yesterday, in my opinion, is like I say, that's why it appears to be moving so fast. It's still ahead of us. Well, it is now, in my opinion, ahead of us, and it's still above us, heading. We're not that far around at this stage. We're not in that we're sort of here, and it's this one specifically is actually come through here and coming above, and it's coming above and going ahead of us basically. And it's heading down. Unfortunately, it's heading down. It's heading out to the system. You remember we need to go back to just the beginning point here, and we can just keep going up and down here, but we need to keep remembering this fundamental point here. This is our absolute evidence. Everything's that we've seen over the years has corroborated with this being the point where this system, actually the Pluto system that had been in the northern hemisphere of the system that our sun really orbits, and had been cut through the ecliptic plane, this was the point of crossing. This equivalent point back here, back in 1930, when it last crossed the ecliptic. This was the repeat of that. This was the next point. This was the JFP on the 14th of October 2016. And this, we know it was the crossing point. And you can imagine, because it's the crossing point, objects that have come in around this point and have come round to the sun. If this system had been above us when these objects would have come in, they would have come in round the sun and come up and cut up through, back up to the Pluto system, where they've been, in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, and until the 30s, where it crossed and then back then it would have been below us. As it's gone back now, it's below us again, and it crossed only in 2016. So that means that these objects that are now in our time, 2021, they're cutting through, they're coming back round, they're above, they're cutting out, but they're not going to drop down to this system that is below us, and they're not going to go above us. They're going to head out towards us to go back out to the system that is below us, but they are above us. They've got to cut down through to reach the Pluto system. This is all about triangulating our positions. Excuse me, my voice. I've tried making this video so many times, I'm afraid, and I fail so miserably each time, I'm afraid. It's such an enormous subject to attempt to take you through, and to understand the kind of like, to be able to triangulate this point. This, you know, it was such an epic shot. It really put Jeff P on the map. It was caught on a webcam, pointing northeast, right where Mars should have been, to 10 o'clock at night. You know, a cold October night, and that's an epic shot. And I spent so many years trying to explain that, and as I've often gone to, you know, the shot that really changed it all for me, you know, as much as anything. I'm sure we'll come to it, but the shot in the whole, oh, there it was, look, the shot in the whole sequence that was posted by who was it? It was Alex Lujan on the 1st of September 2000, and I believe it was 2019, and it was a game changer. We'd seen it coming in just like Comet Nearwise, and I'd said, you know, you were going to see it, and there it was coming in, and it had to be, because I was still at that stage attached to a heliocentric model of this object going out this way, not coming in, just like we saw Nearwise on the 20th of July. The last day we saw it in the night sky, on the 20th of July 2020, the day my mum passed, ironically. And then, you know, to see it going out the previous year, and to see it going out, and to see that tail. And finally, when I saw that, we knew, we'd seen that Jeff P shot, we knew that this thing was here. We just couldn't believe what we were seeing. None of us could believe what we were seeing. And that's what this is really all about. You know, to be able to move forward with any of this and any of the problems we face right now, the hardest thing we're going to do is move through our own belief systems. That this is really happening, that these flybys are happening, because I'm trying to show you, you know, that shot there was caught on webcams to Mexico shot that Alex, like I say, put up on the 1st of September. You know, it was an epic shot, just like Jeff P's shot. You know, we were downloading that one ourselves to go to that and see that, because it was just so incredibly mind-blowing. And so let's okay, so like, I brought you here to this page here because I've got the 17th of the 3rd 2021, you know, and I just want to try and give some understanding to trying to see my timeline and trying to be able to use it as a calculator to understand the bigger events. And so you can understand that if I took the 17th of the 3rd 2021, and that's around about the time when the Icelandic volcano went off. You know, February we saw Stromboli going off and Etna really going crazy. You know, the 19th, yesterday, we saw Etna and Stromboli, they've been totally quiet. They absolutely exploded yesterday. And then you had a big earthquake in Japan. You've had, the Icelandic volcano, also a massive release. And we're going to get to that. But I just want to make you think about this, because if I run that cycle, if we think about these cycles, as I've just shown you, these two objects that we're experiencing, and I'm saying that if we want to understand a little bit more about what we can expect from this, and how we can see, how we can show evidence of this in our timeline, how we can show evidence of how this works in a timeline, so we can charter it, and by chartering it we can believe it, and by believing it we can actually move beyond our beliefs, and we can actually see the problem for what it really is, and start thinking about ways of coming up with solutions to what we face right now. And so the reason I really wanted to show you this is because if I run 11-year cycles from that day, when basically around about the time when the Icelandic volcano started going off, and to the, we just come up to the new moon, and it was really severe over the new moon, and then we've just come to, like I say, the neat moon, and suddenly we've just seen a massive increase again. So just staying with that, this might not seem relevant, but the 17th of March 1944, so 17th of 3rd 1944, and the end day is the 11th of March 2000 and January, February, March. Sorry, let's just do that as March. And we can see that as 76 years and 11 months, which is basically 77 years, isn't it? And 22 days. So it's basically, it's 77 years, which is a funny, from cycle to cycle, that aspect of this specific object. And we can literally see why. Vesuvius erupted in March 1944, not from a perspective of the cycles of that 11-year cycle that we've charted in my own model from 2004, using my model right up to now, but we can see this aspect, and it's a very confusing aspect of where we are now, and the two last objects that have got to go by now, which is Kerberos and Hydra. I call them those names based on a history of all these different the different names we've given them every time these cycles come round. But let's just go back. So let's go back in my model to kind of like the 1995, this is when Comet Halley-Bopp, we would have just seen it as Comet Halley-Bopp. There wouldn't have been any objects actually coming close to our system at that stage, but they would have been seen in our night sky. And then if we but this aspect of the model here, this aspect of what I call the Pluto system, would have been in the northern hemisphere. It would have been above us. And if we come back, we come to so if we come back here to this point in the model, 1930, when Pluto was discovered, this is a kind of the best thing I can show you of when the Pluto system came from under the ecliptic plane of what our sun really orbits, the planet X system, and passed through and came above. This was the point Carlos Ferrada made his big prediction in 1939. This was when Planet X was a massive subject. This aspect here, where it crosses through, we had pretty much all the same objects, three of these objects orbiting the Jupiter system, which is orbiting the Pluto system, came in and around our sun, literally were pulled in as it came round. Objects in this system at this point came off and came right round our own sun and then went back to the system. And this was the only point 77 years ago where that same point could have occurred in 1944. This is what corroborates it. Yeah, so if I come back to this point here in the latest model and show you this object that Brandon Corey Nagley posted in late November, and what I'm saying is, what, like I say, we're going to experience that in early August. But you can understand that we're experiencing one of these two here, and Kerberos, this one here, if this one here has just passed now and has gone ahead, you can understand that this one sits just behind. You know, basically, this is the outer one, and this is the inner one. This one sits behind, this one sits ahead. All of our shots seem to kind of, like, as far as I can see, seem to corroborate that. Now, to understand that, you know, that's a similar shot that was, you know, December 12th, 2020. You know, these are all corroborating images of this big Hydra that we have, you know, the big one. Not to say that any other of these, the two we're experiencing now, but that was, you remember when we saw the king tide and it was on a neap moon, and the sea rises up in Venice and experiences, you know, a king tide on the 9th of December, you know, just shortly after a tsunami in Greece, and that's the furthest orbiting object. Again, that's the same one, one of the pair. You know, this is just so many corroborating images of it. And then we come to, you know, we just seen this. SD1 had just posted this on May the 20th. And we see the same aspect that I'm talking now. This is not the one that's just flown by. This is its twin. This is the one that I'm really concerned about, that's coming in, that follows the other one. Never mind, we actually meet that in, you know, it should be passing pretty soon because it sits behind the other one. He's not the only one who's capturing that. I mean, this is just incredible, these shots that Planet X Hunter has just put up. They're just utterly, you know, it's very difficult to get your head around that being an object effectively above us, but coming towards, kind of between us and the sun, basically. It should have gone past us, in my opinion. I know it's very difficult. You know, this is all in the, where did he say it? This is in the east at sunset. You know, all that light that's kind of, you know, the west is, so he keeps panning around. You'll see in the video, but this is where I'm imagining this object is coming in above the sun from our perspective. And for most part, these objects are just completely out of view. You know, these objects are completely out of view. I mean, it's like a dragon's face in there. I saw a dragon's face in there when I was seeing the structure in here earlier. Maybe I would come to it. Maybe that was it. But he's, in my opinion, I know it looks so much like a cloud structure, and it's so difficult to see within what that truly is. But that to me is one of the rare times that we can get an object, a view of this object, because it's getting closer and closer and closer to the sun from our perspective. If you go back to 2011 in this system, and you think about Fukushima on the 3rd of March 2011, let's go back to the date calculator and think about this as a bigger picture, just to help you question your own astronomical story of what you think might be happening now. Before I get to the big political showdown that this kind of talked about when I wrote Laughing Gas, of what drove me to kind of understand the massive wall that we approach now, the big political play-out that we only see, there's a massive political frontier to this whole story, and I realised this. I totally realised this, and we are going to come to what NATO's pushing for now, and so much of the bigger political message. But staying with the bigger astronomical message right now, and just thinking about what this really means for us. The earthquakes that we also saw yesterday, the big earthquake in Japan, where we literally saw the it's just a massive earthquake, buildings really shaking, people shouting out, this has been the biggest one for a lot, this is big, this is all exactly as I was suggesting in my last video, based on observing this unbelievable pattern that we're really seeing of this absolutely non-heliocentric model. It's, if we come back to this calculator, let me find it. Okay, so we're just coming to day the 11th of March 2011, when Fukushima went bang, and we've got repeater, what is it, we've got minus, but let's just go just plus a shape, because this kind of, it's 11.89 years. It's what we would understand as the exact orbit of Jupiter as we would perceive it. And so let's just make that a plus for a shape, and go forward from that date and calculate a new date, and we can see that the next date is the 29th of January 2023, and that is almost exactly the perihelion point of Jupiter, when Jupiter is officially super close to our sun. Isn't it ironic that if we go that we go back one rotation and we come to the exact point that Fukushima goes bang. In actual fact, if we go to, let's just get the calculator up. 2011 minus 165 equals 1846. Just thought I'd show you that with the relevant shot, that Brandon Corey Nagley shot that I just thought I'd put up there when I pull the calculator up, because of 1846 is the discovery of Neptune, the year Neptune was discovered. I think it was 1846. Yeah, Johann Gottfried, Galley. Sorry, so I don't know how to pronounce that at all. Johann Gottfried Gale. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. But isn't it funny, that you minus the orbital period of Neptune, 165 years, and from the year Fukushima goes bang, and you come to 1846. And if I minus 165 years from that, you come to the year Galileo discovered Halley's Comet. If I minus 84 years, the orbital duration of supposedly Uranus, people, when they discovered Neptune, they said, oh, it looks just like Uranus. If I minus 84 years, the orbital period of Uranus, from that day I come to 1597, the year the first dwarf planet was discovered. Now, and then Jupiter supposedly discovered in 1613 by Galileo. But then, when was Saturn discovered? Galileo spots Saturn's rings through a telescope but mistakes them for a triple planet. The first observation of Saturn through a telescope was made by Galileo in 1610. So it's like, was that the arrival of Saturn? It kind of, yeah, so you come around to here, and then you've got 1848, and we discover supposedly one of the moons of Saturn, kind of 2 years after we discover Neptune. It's really, it's if you go to, like I say, 1930, the year Pluto was discovered, and you minus 84 years, the duration of Uranus again, you come to the year Neptune was discovered again, 1846. So to get your head around your current system, your current astronomical system, so to get your head around your current system, and not be able to have a way to describe or a window on all of these events, when you can see how I've charted these events over the years, and how I've slowly built this model to understand, what's coming in, why these massive earthquakes and volcanoes are going to happen. You remember that all of this time is all on this side of, it's all coming out of this side. Back in 2011, 2012, it was affecting us over there. This time it's affecting us here. In 2004, the big tsunami. It's this same object of 4 years before. And we can see how, 12 years after the big financial crash, was it 12 years after? Yeah, we come to that same point now. 13 years after that same point, we come to that. So, because Hydra does 13 cycles in the time we do 12. So we go to that 13th year, and then we sync up, and that's what we're coming to here. This is the big precursor to the 2008 financial crash. And ironically, just as these objects are coming in, we see, stock market instability. And for me, this is, remember the Bitcoin and all that was created when, the Sichuan earthquake that happened 2 days after the neat moon on the 12th of May, 2008, the massive earthquake that was, in my opinion, the absolute precursor. Remember, these people, there's many that are truly understand what's really happening on an astronomical level with all these flybys. To really understand why the Second World War was going on in Carlos Ferrada's time is because they always take us to war at these times. And I just want to bring your attention now to this this NATO speech that was delivered on the 15th of May 2021. It was a meeting. I'm just going to, before I critique, I'm not going to do the critique of this as I'm going to get too angry, but I'm going to show you another critique of it, which I find is as someone who's gone through it, but I thought I'd just run that through and let you guys have it there so you can read it in greater detail if the later breakdown of this is of interest by this. Well, I'll come to him in a shape. I just wanted to run that through just in case you want to read it all, because it will blow you away. But it's such a big speech. But we're going to cut to the we're going to cut through to this article here, which is how I found it in the first place. I found it on a Michael Rivero's site, What Really Happened, and he always really covers kind of global events better than most bloggers I know. But NATO pontiff cites scriptures for holy war against Russia and China. And so it's a story by Rick Razoff. The NATO website posted a speech delivered by its Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. The North Atlantic prelate alluded to the story of Jesus' multiplication of fish and loaves in the 4 Gospels that is referred to as the feeding of the 5,000, stating, with a quote from it, the theme of this year's conference is short hint, go and see. NATO didn't record whether anyone in the audience invited him to go and see select bomb and missile craters in Serbia, Afghanistan or Libya. He seemed quite pleased with himself, saying, as the Latin saying goes, if you want peace, prepare for war. He didn't cite in Latin though, in which case it would have been a Roman saying. Now you can see why I find this quite an interesting kind of take on this specific speech. This is on the back, whether you also understand there's a massive NATO drill happening right now near the Ukraine. Massive, one of the biggest ever. So they're provoking Russia. They're trying to do exactly the same thing that happened in the First World War with Japan. Provoking Japan into a preemptive attack, as what happened with Pearl Harbor. It's a very similar story that's happening. Everything is being done right now to make war happen. And if I come back here to this story posted yesterday by Michael Vero on What Really Happened .com. Israeli military baits Hamas terrorists using ingenious tactical move, then unleashes massive air attack. And this is the message to the world right now. Remember what happened in the time of Elizabeth I. She didn't respond aggressively at all to the invasion. She absolutely knew she could not wage war in this time. You know, this ultimately is a very old religious agenda that is pushing us into war here. You know, this is really why the European Union has been broken. It's been broken up to make way for this. This is why I published this book, predicting that they were going to try and take us out of Europe. That's why I published it in 2011, 2012, being faced with this dilemma. Why were we being pushed into this terrible thing? Why did I have to see it? You know, these, you know, and it's what we're really seeing is this is the end of an age. This is the beginning of an age. You know, really, that time Jeff P shot, that was really the kind of like the conclusion and the beginning of this age. But ultimately, when this big last flyby happens in August, that will be, you won't see a flyby like this again. You haven't seen one for 1800 years. You won't see another one like the one that's coming up in August for another 1800 years. Yes, the one that's coming up now is going to be volcanoes. You know, that what happened in March 1944 with Vesuvius, that is all the earthquakes and all the volcanoes, the big ones, are all going to start happening. They're going to start increasing now. You know, this second twin, not Hydra, not the one we meet in August, but this next one, this is the next one that's passing us now. And you know, we're being massively emotionally affected by these, and they're going to try and make war happen at this time. They're going to try and lower the vibration, because that's the story that's been thrown at us all through these cycles. And you know, the reason I took my message off, you know, to South America to drink ayahuasca and to try and I wrote a book about the whole kind of like experience of that, and the message I got was, don't worry about your earth. You know, my message to God was, don't worry about your earth. I've already deployed my best. Unprecedented peace will now be waged upon your earth. That we will see how NATO is just desperately trying to, why Europe had to be broken up, because there was people involved. You know, it was people involved. It had a whole democratic process, and people were going to get together, and they were going to do business, and they were going to prosper, and the whole of the European Union was about, and the European Parliament bringing the people of Europe together was a fantastic thing. Not like NATO, bringing the religious leaders together to decide that we all need to be sent off to war. You can see what's happening. We're in the same cycle. We're in the same process. And we're all so different than we were 84 years ago, when this cycle, in the big cycle, you know, 7 cycles of Jupiter, effectively. You know, the big cycle that runs from 1939 to 2011. And, well, 2023, but the only point of crossing is actually this year, 2021. That's the only point of all of these objects are in proximity. This flybys we've got coming in now. This is, and you know, for most of us, we're just going to be hearing news of the Indian variant, and what unfolds there, I'm not too sure. But you know, most people have been, like I say, we've just come through that election. I don't know if I said that, you know, straight after the election we're all going to start talking about the Indian variant more and more and more, because we just had a big local election here in Britain, in the UK, and that's gone out of the way, and so now it's all about the Indian variant vaccines, and a few are going to really be able to take on. I'm being able to predict these volcanoes and earthquakes really quite accurately, and I'm getting all these epic shots that just constantly, almost annoyingly, corroborate my timeline over and over. And I don't know what the solution is other than to wage peace against their story. It's just a story to deliver a Christian apocalypse, to lower the vibration enough that you bring this. We just need to be keeping the vibration as high as possible. Those, you're all going to go your way here. You're all going to choose who you truly want to be. Whether you're going to go with the stories that they're going to give you. And, it's our only ability to get through these coming periods of whatever unfolds. I was going to take you through the kind of we're going to go back to I took you on the big count, but let's just come back to looking at the day Fukushima went bang, and minusing the exact 11 years and 11.89 years, 11 years and 324 days the same. And we see that kind of like, we come back to 1939, Carlos Frada's massive prediction, and then he said it would return in 1999. And we can see 1916, the Second World War, the First World War, apologies, and then the Second World War. We were invading Tibet around about 1904. You can see how there's always aggression put at these times. And Carlos Rada predicted 1999 was the year it came back, because he was still in a heliocentric model, and so believed that this object was coming around our sun, and so it was going to cross our ecliptic, which meant if it was going to come back in 1999, it was going to cross our ecliptic. It was a clean cut. It was a clean cut passing through. Like, it would be over and done in a shot. He couldn't understand how this thing could appear like it's parked next to the sun for 84 years before it goes back into the night sky, and we have to invent another dwarf planet. All a story to keep you from where you are, in a peaceful universe with peaceful neighbours, and to keep you in a story that is not truly your place in the universe at all. A story of a lack of energy, a lack of resources, where everyone's coming at you, everyone's attacking you, and the only thing you can do is to prepare for war. Didn't Jesus say, "Blessed are the peacekeepers"? Are peacekeepers really preparing for war? Is that what a peacekeeper is? We're in it though. We're totally in this now. And I'm not too sure what the solutions are. I guess just praying. You know, really inviting in the highest assistance through this transit. Speaking your truth. And preparing. You know, the money's going to try and do what we're going to try and do. And we've just had a flyby and we've just seen a massive dip in the currency as that flew by. Yeah, the irony is I got home the other day and I looked up in the sky and I went out to have a wee in the garden and I was looking up into the sky and I saw what looked like, I thought, oh my God, what's that? And it was this it was like headlights on a foggy day, but it was right up in space and it was massive. It was just moving along the sky like a car moving up in space. And I thought, oh my God, is it a flyby? And you know, there was a lot of activity around this time as well. And I'm of a mind that this is actually when this object was really flying by closest to us. That's when, you know, well, that's it. You know, it's just been flying by during this period, basically. But this was actually, when I looked at it, I thought, oh my God, this must be a flyby. But then I just looked at it and I thought, oh my God, it's a rocket. And so I came out to have a little look. And I saw, sure enough, it really was. They just released the rocket and it had come over I could see it going over Europe. I literally saw it. And I thought, what an interesting time to release a rocket, because, you know, all the contemporary scientific or astronomical community, when they see these astronomical events, like we've just seen, like Mr. MBB 3333 posted yesterday, that was just like Area 55 shot in February. You know, there was a massive eruption from Bakaya on the 16th of May as well. And then we see what's listed as a 5.3 magnitude in China. Now that in itself doesn't seem very big. But actually, when we look at the 15th of May, the day before the flyby, when I'm assuming around about the time when it was really actually flying by, that outermost object was at its closest point, we see this type of damage in China. Quite a big earthquake. You know, big buildings fell down. This doesn't, you know, China has got a history, but, you know, if Dutch sense is anything to be, you know, Dutch sense to me is, you know, he talks more sense on earthquakes and activity and the way he sees energy moving around tectonic plates and cratons within tectonic plates. And, you know, he absolutely blows me away. And he often talks about these kind of dead zones that are seen in China, and how they're simply not being recorded or they're being underplayed. Because understand, you imagine if that massive earthquake in China was the kind of like the precursor for the financial crash, and it was such a massive earthquake that, you know, everyone pulled their money out because it would cause massive destruction. You know, 4/5 of every building, 4/5 of every building standing basically got destroyed by that. You know, it was absolutely, you know, I don't know how many died. I can't remember off the top of my head how many people died in 2008, but it was a lot of people, and it was affected. You know, it was a massive earthquake, massive standalone, and the money wanted to do what we would want to do. It wants to go to safer ground when these things are coming by, especially big industrial zones like this. Now you think Three Gorges Dam, you know, that's all built in the name of carbon dioxide, in the name of stopping carbon dioxide, carbon credits, and all the things that China have had to comply with to manufacture to the mass they do, and to comply with kind of like the World Trade Organization and organizations like this that can that enforce these kind of like carbon trading rules, where you can only produce so much with non-renewables. And so they built these massive dams, and we're seeing massive earthquakes and volcanoes now. We know the Emperor Hawaiian Seamount chain under the Pacific Ocean, which sits below China, is absolutely, if the Ring of Fire is absolutely going crazy at the moment, all the volcanoes that went bang just yesterday, Etna and Stromboli, massive great plume, massive great release came out of the volcano in Iceland, as well as there's volcanoes all around the earth at the moment, all around, on the Pacific Rim, on the Pacific Rim, especially just below America at the moment. I mean, Picard is starting to get a little bit less, but certainly volcanoes down that region are really, really active at the moment. Many have just yesterday just fully exploded. It's really super active. This is all of this, and and volcanoes happening around Indonesia, and all this massive release of moisture coming up from the ocean because of all the underwater volcanoes underneath the Pacific at the moment. China's about to get battered again. It's going to have immense rain. It's going to have a lot of earthquakes now. And this specific object, this next object that's coming in now, is not as big as the one that's coming in August. Not nearly as big. But it's going to create a lot of volcanoes and earthquakes in the northern hemisphere. Vesuvius will be the least of your worries, basically, I'm afraid. This is going to be massive. It's going to be a big year. And because of the effect it has on us, on a soul level, on an astral level, and on a physical level, and on an emotional level, because of the way it pulls on anything attached to the human state on an astral level. Our heart holds on to our soul. Our soul cannot hold on to our heart. It's the human link that makes that connection. When the body dies, that releases. But when the human being can only be attached to one soul, and there's so much other interference coming in that in panic we can forget who we are. We can lose our connection to our divine state. So they want to lower the vibration, and they are trying to bring in another soul into the human state. And I explored a lot about this in my previous videos, and this is the biggest, all of Planet X. The whole subject is just impossible to get your head around, I'm afraid. It's just too massive. I just don't know how to broach it, the truth be told. I just don't know how to broach any of it, really, other than doing the best I can with this and trying to really show you that Jupiter, Saturn, both orbit big blue planet, dwarf planet. Don't know what you want to call it, but it's big, and it's very big. So big that Jupiter and Saturn orbit it, and it orbits what our sun orbits. And Jupiter and Saturn arrive with this big blue object and leave with this big blue object. And they turn up every 1,800 years. And they come in about, they start being seen a few hundred years, more than that, about 300, 400 years before, and are seen for about 400 years after going out. And so for the best part of 800 years, nearly 1,000 years, maybe not quite as long as that, but Saturn and Jupiter are normal. Really, in Galileo's time, Saturn and Jupiter had really only just turned up. They are Planet X. They will orbit the Planet X. They're part of the Planet X system. And we've just thrown a big story over the top of it. A very complex story has been thrown over the top of it to make it seem so different to what it really is. And that's where we all are now, in a story, in a big story. And, you know, it's all about vibration. And it might be that you're not meant to be here through this. It might not, that you may even make it to August. I might not make it to August. The big flyby. It's not really about that. You know, it's about who you choose to be through this, who you choose to embody through this. Whether you go into your blame and your hate and all these negative emotions, or whether you come back to peace and just diffuse that anger and diffuse that blame. Realize no one's to blame, and just talk them down and bring them back to peace. And so, yeah, just coming back to that little chart there of the of Bitcoin dollars there, and just see, you know, it just dropped to you know, 30,000. You can see it really dropped, massive plummet. And you remember I said how this was the precursor to the 2008 crash, and how we're going to see similar really, really volatile signs as everyone pulls their money out, and different factions pull their money out very quickly to put it into whatever they want to put it into. You know, and big, you know, I think they call them, I heard them call them whales, big movers and shakers in the kind of crypto market. Someone bought and sold some big amount of stock and stimulated a big dump. Someone took a load of money out. But the you know, such is going to be the nature with this, and you know, these prices are high, but it's not like bank accounts. We can't just all take our money out at the same time. And you know, I, believe it or not, as you can imagine, I was watching this flyby coming in, so I've just been watching it, and you know, I haven't put a lot of money into digital currencies or anything else like that. You know, I put like you know, because I'd bought 6,000 XRP Ripple when I first started making videos, and then my truck caught fire and all the passcodes were in my truck, and I took that as a kind of message from the gods that I really wasn't meant to be a crypto market trader, stockbroker, or whatever you want to call it, crypto. You know what I mean? I just had to accept there and then, and I've just seen. You remember when XRP Ripple dropped from like $1.50 down to 0.09 cents, and I made the video and I was just like, guys, this is your time to kind of jump on board if you missed that boat. And I thought, Heidi, I'm just going to jump on board. So I did, and I chucked 200 quid into XRP, and it jumped up to kind of like, you know, it jumped up to quite a few thousand, quite a few thousand quids. I kind of kicked myself and not dumping more in, because I did know people who heard it was 0.09 and dumped an absolute fortune in and made an absolute killing. You know, when it suddenly went up to $3, it was just incredible. You know, it was like, you know, a lot of people made a lot of money out of that. But just remember that this is why the whole cryptocurrency was birthed out of the 2008 crash. That's when it all came off the ground, because of that massive financial crash, because the wealth of the middle class was harvested. So this has been created for this very purpose of dealing with this. And I just want to bring your attention to so this was the this video was premiered 10 hours ago. Let me just restart that video. I might do an ad.
That is the biggest earthquake to date. It is still going. Oh my God, the building's gonna fall.
There it is. Can you see that? See what's happening with the screen there? Can you see how it just blurred out? If you come forward a little bit further. See there? Just the same thing happening where it happens. This is electromagnetic pulse. This is big energy. Look what it's doing to, you can see the kind of like almost the shock waves that are being caused by the enormous flux of this thing passing, the electromagnetic pulse of all of this. It's just distorting everything. The Schumann resonance is literally being caught there. Same here. The shockwave of it. See there? Can you see the flash again? They've speeded it up. So we're seeing the effects of this thing flying by, basically, and you know, we've seen Etna and Volcano go simultaneous yesterday at the same time as that earthquake went bang. You know, the side of, I think it was Stromboli actually collapsed, and you know they're trying to make it out as if it's just a as if it's quite minor eruption, but they both erupt at the same time, and magma pours out where the side of the caldera collapses. This is big stuff that's going on. It's major league. It's major league what's going on. Okay, so that brings us back to May the 19th, and what's the next flybys that we've got coming up? Well, basically we're in it now. We're just in it now, and you know, though we've just had one flyby, we've got another object even closer to us, just getting closer. It's really difficult to say. It's really, really difficult to say now. We're just getting, all of these objects, really, they're kind of passage point, the two passage points of these objects, effectively their exit points is kind of like, it's July and August, but the object that its exit point is July. The next one, it's going to pass us, I'm imagining, way before we get to July. It should be ahead of us, and as it goes past us and it kind of swings towards us and then keeps going round, looking like it's coming towards us, but it's kind of going off, but it's still above us, still quite a lot above us, heading down towards pretty much where we're heading. And hopefully it's going to be ahead of us, but I can imagine that there's going to be a lot of debris in its tail that we're going to get close to as we get closer and closer to June, July. We are coming to the debris point now. The closest point where we might see the debris really getting closest, some bigger stuff here. And they want you in a completely different story. They want you in the story of war and hate and blame. A story of yesteryear, an old story, an old way. Britain's going to go for a big transformation here. The world's going to go for a big transformation here. Hopefully, all of this that I've put together with this model has kind of like one way or another, for those who followed it, it's kind of advanced our understanding that it really was the whole Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter system. That's what we're in, really. That's what we've been experiencing for the last few hundred years. It comes and it goes, and it will continue to come and go for time immemorial. It's just another grand cycle that you're in, and you're here to witness the biggest part of it. Just remember that to go on beyond this, to go to the space that is right next to this space, that is open to you beyond this space. And this is why I wrote this, was because I was told, invite them in. That's why I kept it in a book, really. It was just that you're invited in, that we're all invited into this space beyond, that we've all built with our highest aspirations. And the only thing it requires from you to enter that realm is your understanding that you have to be of peace. And you have to make that statement to enter that realm. It is a binding contract. It is what is, and all that is required of you in that realm is that you are of peace. You have peaceful intention. All are welcome when this time finishes in this realm. Whatever your religious ideas or whatever you want to take from there is your choosing. Take from here to there is your choosing. It doesn't much care for them. It only cares for you. Have one fundamental agreement that you make, your binding contract to enter that space with all that you've created, for all the wonderful endeavours you've had here on earth. What you've created from the very best, from all of that on a higher level, is open to you, but is a communal space that is all that have, it's everyone's best. It's where we all come together. It's where worlds merge. And that's what's opening up for us here when we're finished here. And we're all going to be finished here at one time or other. We're all going to finish in these bodies and move on. And some of us will be going sooner than others, as such is the case, as possibly maybe my case. But I've lived full and I've had a wonderful life. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to kind of charter this wonderful journey of watching this system and moving beyond the fear and having an opportunity to charter it and really start seeing the bigger thing that Galileo saw, Isaac Newton saw. You know, just it's been seen every 84 years or so as we kind of like reinvent this big blue planet every time it comes back into view, to try and normalise the Pluto system, Jupiter system, the Neptune system, the Uranus system, the Eris system, Seti V, the mirror system, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot simpler than you've been giving it credit though, than we've been giving it credit, and also a lot more complicated. And it's a big picture. It's just a massive picture. And I really hope you make it through this. I really do. Maybe we're just a few volcanoes and nice and simple. I got a funny feeling it's going to be a bit tougher. So here we go. Well, we've already got much further than I thought we would. Oh my God, we haven't done bad so far. And the gods say we're going to wage peace against these warmongers, and I really pray we do. So a big golden ring around you, a big golden ring around this earth, and all those that wish to help this earth at this time to stay in peace, to get through this process without getting drawn into blame and hate and all their stories of division and political correctness, and just realise that peace is the only way. If you want peace, be peaceful. Be peaceful. Take care, bye-bye.